Hey guys, we're with you again. This week, we have Matthew Brewster. He's from Remedy Roofing, and I know we've had a bunch of requests for roofers, and I have a bunch of questions to ask him, so we're going to put him on the hot seat. Hey, Matthew, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, Matthew with Remedy Roofing. I operate our Pearland branch, so we take care of most of the southeast side of Houston, although still perfectly capable to help anywhere else. So Central Houston, Spring, Humble, Katy, all those good areas. Here to answer questions and help out.
Sure thing. One of the things, the questions we get the most is, how do you pick a roofer? You're like us, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, where there's not a whole lot of licensing, there's not a whole lot of regulation.
Yeah.
So lots of people can call themselves chimney sweeps, and you just need a brush and a truck, and maybe a ladder, maybe. For you guys, what should they look for? What should they ask for? How do they make sure they get a good roofer?
Yeah, good question. And 100% correct. It's still the Wild West in our industry. Sounds like, in fact, that's one of the areas I'd actually like to see a little more regulation, like to see some licensure, because it'll kind of push all the bad apples out, but wishful thinking. What to look for in a roofer? Number one, and I see this a lot, make sure they've got some longevity. And this is one that always catches me as kind of a head scratcher when I'm speaking with a potential client or I'm speaking with a homeowner, and they say, well, this roofing company offered us a 10-year workmanship warranty, right? Which we can offer as well, and we can get into that. But then I look up the company, they've been around for 2.5 years. I'm like, well, if the warranty they're providing is 5 times the time they've been in business, I'm not sure it's that valuable. So one would be, have they been around for a bit? Do they have some longevity in the business? 2, I've found that for most homeowners and even contractors, they look at a shingle as a shingle, right? So, well, I'm putting on this system, and I've got my thoughts as to why a certain system, the one we install, is the best. But another guy might have a different opinion. Well, to the average homeowner, it doesn't really matter a whole lot. They want to know they're going to have a good roof. What I suggest to homeowners is find the contractor you're the most comfortable with, right? Did they show up on time? Do they have insurance? That's definitely one. Are they insured? Do they have longevity? Did they follow up with you? Did they send you what you asked for when they said they would send it? Because if they're failing any of those front-end items, it's not highly likely they're going to be very detail-oriented when it comes to replacing your roof, which you got to get the details right there.
Sure.
Right. So really, it's if you're not totally up to speed on roofing systems and shingles and all these types of items, are you sold on the company that you're going with, or are you sold on that project manager? Because they're going to be responsible with making sure that roof gets put on correctly.
Sure. I know you guys are like us. You can do 99% of your job correctly, and if 1% goes wrong and there's a leak inside of a customer's house, it's a fail.
Yeah, got to be careful.
Yeah, so every little detail actually matters.
Yeah.
What types of roofs do you guys do?
Pretty much everything. So on the let's split it into residential and commercial. Residential side, obviously, the majority of what we do is shingles, asphalt shingles, specifically architectural or 30-year shingles. Probably, without looking at the numbers, 95 to 96% of our business. In addition, on the residential side, metal roofing, tile roofing. You have your exotics. There's some pretty cool rubber products out there. Different types of tile, concrete, clay, slate, anything you can think of on the residential side, we're a go for. On the commercial side of the house, the majority of what we install is TPO membranes. And a lot of what you won't find this that surprising, because we've had a similar conversation, is your good old TPO membrane, just a proper membrane, or a liquid applied membrane. Because what you see a lot in our market in Houston is these really low slope commercial roofs, that, almost flat, and they've got these exposed fasteners all over them. You're asking for a leak sooner or later. So in addition to new construction on the commercial side, we do a lot of retrofits where we're going over top of those old systems with a proper application of a membrane that's designed for a low slope.
Yeah, I always understood that tiles, slates, metal roofs or longer term roofs. Now I'm even starting to see some longer term shingle roofs. Is that correct?
Longer term than tile and metal, or just longer term in addition to like a normal shingle lifespan?
Well, I've heard them called lifetime roofs, and they're shingles.
Yeah. Okay. So two answers there then. Yes, there are shingles that are designed to last longer than the standard 30-year system.
Yep.
And I use the air quotes, even though it's kind of gross. I use the air quotes because that 30-year number, that's really a nationwide number, right? So I'm from Northern Virginia. If you put a 30-year roof on my mom's house, it'll last you 30 years, right? In fact, they had a 20-year roof on their house, and it was 25 years old, holding up pretty well until a hailstorm hit. In our market, the average lifespan for a 30-year shingle is 15 to 17 years, right?
Wow.
We get extreme heat, we get extreme weather events. For a second, can you hear me?
Yep. You're cutting in and out, but yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Manufacturers do offer thicker shingles. Some of them have really cool cuts to them. They're referred to as designer shingles. Those will last you a good, depending on weather, you could expect 25 to 30 years out of those. But the concept of a lifetime shingle, not necessarily a thing.
Okay. That leads us to the new thing, to the next question, which is, how do I know, especially if I have an asphalt roof, because that's the majority of at least homeowners.
Yep.
How do I know when I need a new roof?
Yeah. Okay. So a couple things you can look for as a homeowner. None of these are foolproof. Okay. There's no way to know without getting on the roof what the age and not the age, but the overall quality and structure of that roof is at the time. But little things you can look for that might trigger you to say, okay, I should get a roofing professional out here to examine my roof. If you have gutters, you can check the gutter downspouts. And one thing you'll see as a roof gets older and starts to get what we call crispy or brittle, those granules, the little stones that are on the roof that protects the matting, will start to slough off. And you'll start to see them accumulate at the bottom of your gutter downspouts. Or like at my house, I've got a couple little what are called valleys that sort of spit water out in front of my front door, which is a perfect spot for water to spit out, right? But one thing I'll notice, like we had a hailstorm a year and a half, 2 years ago. And sure enough, about a year later, get some sun on them, let the rain start washing away. And I start seeing a pile of granules in my front yard. I'm going, what's going on here? Sure enough, get on the roof. I've got damage, right? It's not an end all be all, but that's a really good sign you might want to get up there. Then you have your more obvious. If you start seeing, lifted, missing shingles on the roof, those are your more obvious signs you have a problem. I'm not sure. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no. One of the things our guys look for too is they call them holographic roofs, when the fuzziness kind of shows up underneath the little granules.
Yeah, they start getting that silver look.
Yeah, and it's almost like a hologram because you look at different angles and it looks different.
Yeah. So those are really far gone. So the granules have sloughed off, and now you're actually seeing the fiberglass kind of shining through. Sure.
Yeah, because that means slippery for us.
They're not fun to walk on. Yeah, that's for sure.
Sure. Do roofs require maintenance, or is this something that, most people are going to think you install a roof, you're good for, if it says 30 years, then 30 years is what you're good for. But yeah,
so
do they require maintenance?
They do. And this is one of those where I try to explain this to a client after I've installed a roof, or oftentimes even during that process. Every 4 to 6 years, you want to have someone get up there and reapply all the sealant. So around all your flashings, any exposed fasteners, fresh coat of paint on the flashings, because the UV rays will eat that up too. And if that goes to bare metal, right, or even a mill finish or galvanized metal, that will oxidize and rust over time. Well, if that oxidizes through, I've got a leak, right? If my caulking gets dried up in the extreme heat we get, well, if it disappears, I've got an entry point for a leak. And I liken it to changing the oil in your car, right? I'll explain to a client often, this is a rub for some people, but if we get up there and there's no leak, let's say around a flashing, right? Or a pipe boot might be a common area. And the leak happened not because of misapplication, but it happened because there's just no air. Is that better? That should work. Okay.
No, we're still, your audio is going in and out.
Are we good now?
Yeah, I just don't have a picture, but we hear you loud and clear.
We're relying on technology. Sorry.
No, I got it.
Anywho, if it's leaking not due to misapplication, but just because the caulking has gotten overly dried out, well, that's happening not because it's not a workmanship warranty, right? And sometimes people go, well, I don't understand that. So the example I give is, well, you got let's say a 50,000 mile warranty on your truck, right? And at 45,000 miles, you bring it in, hey, the engine's locking up. And they say, well, you've never changed the oil, right? No longer a warranty issue. That was a maintenance issue. So yes, most people don't know this. I hope they know about the oil change in their cars. Most people don't know this, but roofs do require maintenance. You don't want to have debris up there building up. So if you're in an area with you've got big tree canopies over your house, you need to regularly clear that debris off. That will cause water to pull up and leak. You need to make sure every 4 to 6 years you reseal everything and get a fresh coat of paint on it. Paint on the flashings, not the shingles, obviously.
Sure. I mean, that's something we look at too, and our maintenance should be yearly, which is we look at chase tops, we look at flashing. We also look at the roof. Obviously, if we're walking across a roof, you can feel it through your feet. If it's soft, if it's fuzzy, if it's anything else. That's why we work together pretty well, just because we refer people to you all the time and basically say, hey, we've been up there. It doesn't look so hot.
Yeah.
One thing that you see all these things now with roofs, GAF, is that a certification? Is that a manufacturer? What does that mean?
Okay. So GAF, don't ask me to tell you what that acronym stands for, but that's the largest manufacturer of roofing materials in the country. That's primarily what we install as well. And this is one of those, it's like nutrition or religion. Everyone's got their opinion, and everyone's opinion's right. I stand by GAF products. I think they're fantastic. You'll have other roofers that maybe disagree with me, and that's fine, right? There are a couple good ones out there other than GAF, and some that I wouldn't put on my roof ever. One thing that does set GAF apart and sets us apart within GAF is what they call their Master Elite certification. And comparing that to some other brands out there, in order to have a Master Elite certification from GAF, it means you're within the top 2% of the nation of roofers. And they're looking at, I mean, how often do you get called back on your roofs? Right? Do you have leaky roofs you install? Do you pay your suppliers on time? Have you been in business a minimum amount of years? Whereas with some of these brands, I could, like you were saying earlier, I could be working any job today, tomorrow decide I'm a roofer, and then sign up as a preferred installer that gives me a nice name with some other brands. You can't do that with GAF. They're going to check you out. And so if you have a contractor that's a GAF Master Elite certified contractor, you know they've been vetted by the largest manufacturer in the world, and they can now offer warranties, extended warranties that are backed by the manufacturer. So I mentioned earlier we could offer a 10-year warranty, and that's pretty standard with our roofs. We upgrade from the standard material warranty to what GAF calls their silver pledge. And that's a 10-year workmanship warranty that's backed by the manufacturer. And that gives you another air quote. You can't see me because of the camera, but they call it a 50-year material warranty, which I kind of chuckle at because it's a 30-year roof and it's going to last you 18. But essentially for the lifetime of that roof within its market, it's warranted against manufacturer defect.
Cool. So when you talk about GAF, I know when we have storms like us, you get really, really busy.
Mm-hmm.
Do GAF people have regions, or can they travel? Because I know we get a lot of sketchy people after storms.
Yeah, so they can. How do you address that? I guess would be the question. If there's been a catastrophe, and a hailstorm would count as a catastrophic event, that's just kind of storm speak for it, and you got a bunch of people knocking on your door, do a little research, right? Because one trick in our industry is you have someone comes in from, let's just pick a state, Virginia, where I'm from, and they heard there was a big storm in Texas. Well, they're going to get a little PO box, right? Or they're going to sublease an office here locally so they can say they've got a local address. That's where the longevity comes into play, right? You got to look that up, because otherwise they could come in from Virginia and still be a GAF Master Elite certified contractor, right? And it happens. You see in our industry all too often where a shark will come in after a big storm like that, and that's what they do. They'll set up a little PO box or something to show they've got a local address, and they'll flash their business card. Hey, we're local. We're local. Okay, but are you going to be here after the storm? What if we have a warranty? Will you be around? And those are the questions that are important. So yes, that would cross over. But the way you make sure you're not going to get burned is you make sure that is a local company, ideally with a physical address. It's an actual storefront building like you have or like we have, and you know they're going to be here.
Right, because after Ike, I was actually at a job site with a roofer who, not in front of the customer, but admitted to me that he had a temp cell phone and temp business cards.
Yep.
And about another 2 weeks, it was going in the trash.
Yep. There's a whole sector of our business. And listen, if somebody else hears this, there's a lot of really good apples in that business too, right? Some people in our business, they make their money, quote unquote, the storm chasing is the term. That doesn't mean they're all bad, right? Some of those are really reputable companies. They'll actually set up an office. They come in, they invest pretty big money, set up an office, and they're going to be here afterwards, right? But they start out like that. Temp business cards, temp phone number. The majority of them, though, like that guy said, as soon as that storm's over, they're on to the next one, and off goes that number, off goes that address, everything.
Right, because in our kind of chimney world, newer companies or companies that are trying to present themselves as something that's been around for a long time talk about not years in business, but years of experience.
Yeah.
and they'll add every employee's experience to a number, and you'll see 45 years of experience, when in fact they've been in business for 6 months.
Those are always funny, yeah.
Yeah. And for us, at least, some of it's kind of buyer beware. You got to do your research.
Yeah.
I mean, do these people actually have an office like you talked about? Because it makes a difference. If something goes wrong, you can always go to the office and talk to somebody, as opposed to the guy that's working, temp cell phone out of a truck. While he may be good, if something goes wrong, you're not going to be able to find him.
Right. Yeah. Funny anecdote to what you just said about the combined experience. So when I was 14 years old, I started a music lesson company, and I was teaching guitar lessons, just going to people's houses. So by the time I think it was 16, I hired somebody because I got busy enough. I needed someone to help run some of the lessons. Well, this guy was much older than me, and he had been teaching for like 25 years. So what did I put on my business cards? 27 years of experience. Meanwhile, you get a 16-year-old that shows up at your house. You're like, wait a second.
Yeah. Yeah. Do the math.
Yeah. Yeah. Or don't. In my case, please don't.
Yeah, exactly. All right. We're coming to the conclusion. Anything I missed that people need to know?
No, I think we hit on all the broad topics. The biggest one in our industry, I can't say it enough, I'm going to keep kicking this dead horse, is do they have a physical address locally? Do they have longevity in the business? How do you feel with the project manager you're meeting with? Because in most cases, every company is different, but the majority of cases, that's the person that's going to be responsible with seeing that project from initial meeting all the way through to close, right? So if they're showing up late, if they're not giving you what you need when they say they're going to do it, if they're unorganized looking, those should all be red flags, because that person's responsible for literally what keeps the water in your house.
Sure. Yeah. For us too, it's look at the actual vehicles they drive up in. Are they blank? Do they have logos? Do they have magnets? Do they have wraps? The more permanent people are going to have more permanent logoing, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's good.
Yep. If someone wanted to contact you, what's the best way to contact you?
You can call our office at 281-391-8555 and just ask for Matthew at the Pearland office. If you forget my name, just say Pearland office. Again, we can help anywhere in the greater Houston area. You would ask for Matthew. You could get a hold of me directly. My cell phone number is 561-531-1793.
Yep. And the Pearland office is off 518, right? I drive by it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, right off of Broadway.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, that's it for today. We have Matthew Brewster on today. He's the man of mystery. He's hiding behind the black screen. I
don't know what happened there.
No, it's okay, man. We got some good information out. I appreciate it. And if anybody needs anything for roofing, call Matthew. He answers questions for me all the time, and I ask him tons of stupid questions, and he answers them all. So anybody needs help, give them a call. Thanks, Matt.
All right, man. We'll talk to you
All
later.
right.